you, all of you. We'll start the program with a little kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Nabhishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Krishna Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Vashatya Desakari Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Pura Bhakta Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Pura Bhakta
Kumar Prabhu, you are breaking up a little bit. Also, yeah, please come closer to the mic. Better now.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Shri Ram Sankirtan Yaga ki Jai. Shri Ram Navami Mahamahotsav ki Jai. Shri Lord Ramchandra Appearance Day ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Hari
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Over to you, Radhamohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone. On behalf of ISKCON Manchester, I welcome you all to our Ram Navami online celebration. I thank everyone for coming today to this wonderful festival. Because of the pandemic, we are not able to do this festival at our temple, but nonetheless, from last 1 year, this Zoom has become our virtual temple. So I welcome you all to our virtual temple in the Zoom. Very grateful to all of the devotees for giving me the opportunity today to speak about Lord Ramchandra. If you all empower me and give me your blessings, then I might be able to speak something about Lord Ramchandra. So I beg for your blessings and your prayers. So let's begin with the Mangalacharan and then we'll discuss the Ram Lila. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta
Padakamala Sri Guru
Gurun Vaishnava
Vaishnavancha Sri
Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam
Sakantam
Savadutam
Rajadutam
Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna, everyone. Konatru, if you can just give me a sharing screen permission, I'd just like to share one sloka. So, welcome everyone to our Ram Navami class from ISKCON Manchester. Ram Navami is celebrated all over the world. It's such a sweet festival where we get this opportunity to hear about the glories of Lord Ramchandra. Ramchandra's glories are unlimited and it is ever fresh. Ramayana story, the story of Lord Ramchandra and his devotees, practically everyone knows in this world what is a story. But whenever this story is narrated, everyone feels it is ever fresh, as if it is just happening now. That the pastime, it is never gets stale. All over the world, we have some music song becomes number one, or some movie becomes number one. They watch it for some years and then everybody forgets that. But Ramayana has been number one since millennia, since yugas and yugas. So it never goes out of fashion. So today is a very auspicious day where we are celebrating the appearance of Lord Ramchandra. The sages and saints, they spend their whole life in glorifying Lord Ramchandra, in hearing the katha of Lord Ramchandra. But today we have just got together just for a couple of hours to glorify Lord Ramchandra. So according to our own capacity, we'll try to dive deep into the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra as much as we can. So today we hear just from one shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam has in the 9th canto the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra is described in particularly chapter 10. So this is a very small purport of this shloka. So is anybody would like to read the translation in purport? Anyone?
Yes, Drew can have a go. That's okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
All these facilities.
Translation and purport.
When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of the world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. Prabhupada. All these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages. It is said,
Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatara.
Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Ram was immensely popular and beneficial, and the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation even in this Kali Yuga.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah, thank you very much, though. Thank you very much for reading the translation and purport. I read the translation again. So here in this section, the Lord's Ram Rajya, Ram is very famous for his Ram Rajya. When he came to this world, he established everything the best a human being can achieve. So there are many incarnations of the Lord, but Lord Ramchandra came as a human just to establish the limits of what a human being can achieve. So Ramchandra is a perfect son, is a perfect father, is a perfect brother, perfect husband. Is in every relationship he is perfect. And being the king of the entire world, he is also best king or the perfect king. So his kingdom, when his reign was there, then his kingdom was called Ram Rajya, and Ram Rajya was full of opulence. So what this one shloka just shows what was the condition of Ram Rajya. So let's repeat this translation again. It is said, when Lord Ramchandra, the supreme personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. So this practically means the whole world was Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means where there is no suffering, there is no kunta, there is no anxiety. So when Lord Ramchandra was present on the planet Earth, there was no suffering, bodily or mental suffering. Everybody was completely healthy, and they had no mental anxiety whatsoever. There were no disease. Right now we are passing through the corona pandemic. When Lord Ramchandra was there was no disease at all. There was no cancer, there was no diabetes, blood pressure. Practically there was no hospital at all. The hospitals were shut down. So there was no disease. There was no old age. How can this be true? Everybody gets old, but when Lord Ramchandra was there, his rule was so perfect. The people were not even getting old. And no bereavement. It was said that in his kingdom, the young generations will never die, before the old generation. So there was no bereavement. There is no lamentation. There is no distress. There is no fear and fatigue. These were completely absent. And in the next line, it is said, there was even no death for those who did not want it. This is the pinnacle of Ramarajya. Here it is said, people will die only if they want to die. So in Mahabharata, we hear that Bhishmadev, he had the benediction, Ichha Mrityu, that he will die only when he wanted to die. But in Ramarajya, everybody had that benediction. People will not die unless they desire to die. So this is the Ramarajya. So Prabhupada in the purport, he mentions that this Ramarajya was there because Ram was present at that time. And Ramarajya or Lord Ramchandra came in Treta Yuga. But Prabhupada says we can have the same Ramarajya in this Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the worst of Yuga. The Kali Yuga is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So in Kali Yuga, we can still have the Rama Rajya. Prabhupada says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. It is mentioned from Chaitanya Charitamrita. That in the Kali Yuga, the Krishna or Ramchandra, he is appearing in the form of his name. So when we chant his holy name, we can still have the Ram Rajya, because it is said whenever there is a Ram, there is a Ram Rajya. So during our next few minutes of talk, we'll try to visit all these various topics of holy name, the Ram's Katha, and how various devotees in the pastimes of Lord Ram established the highest teachings or the examples of how one can surrender or be the perfect devotee of Lord Ram or Lord Krishna. So we'll begin our talk by narrating just briefly the Ram Katha, the whole Ramayana, which is narrated by Sri Valmiki Muni. We won't be able to go through the whole story, but in the limited short time that we'll have, we'll briefly narrate the pastime, and at the end we'll try to understand what are the lessons we can learn from the Ram's pastimes. So Sri Ramchandra, he appeared in Treta Yuga, and as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. That whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principle and the increase of the demoniac activity, then Lord himself appears in this world. So Lord Ramchandra, he was requested by the administrators of this universe, demigods, Lord Brahma and so forth and so on, that Ravan is heading the Rakshasa kingdom and is creating a lot of trouble in the universal affairs. In any organization which needs to function very nicely, there has to be law and order. If someone treats himself above the law and above the order, then he creates all the mischievous activities. So Ravan, he became so powerful by receiving benedictions from various demigods, in particular from Sri Mahadev, Lord Shiva, that he had so much amassed all the power that he had become intoxicated with his powers, and he was disturbing the whole universal affairs in this world. So it was requested to Sri Vishnu that, my Lord, please appear in this world and rectify the whole situation. So Sri Ramchandra, he appears in this world for this one reason, to annihilate the miscreants called Ravan and his kingdom. But also Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhonam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That when Lord comes, he does not come for just one task. The Lord is the perfect example of multitasking. He doesn't do just one job at a time. So he does various jobs, various leelas that he performs. He does various activities, but they all fall into this three category. Paritranaya sadhunam. Primarily, he comes to please his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam, to give pleasure to his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, and to annihilate the miscreants, those who are disturbing the devotees. Krishna comes, or any incarnation of the Vishnu comes, and he rectifies the whole situation. And dharma sansthapanarthaya, then he re-establishes the principles of religion. So when Lord Ramchandra came, he did all these three things together. But in the Ram's pastimes, of course, he eventually he kills Ravan and his mischievous activities. But throughout the Lord's pastimes, there are series and series of various devotees, so many devotees, where Ramchandra is interacting with them. With every devotee, every devotee is very, very unique. And Lord Ramchandra, he has a very special relationship with all these devotees. And Sri Ramchandra, he takes out so many best out of them, just for all of us to follow, that how a various relationship can be established in a perfect mellows by following this example. So there is Dashrath Maharaj, who is having such a parental affection to Lord Ram, and the three mothers of Lord Ram, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. What a wonderful relationship. Then there is the brothers of Lord Ramchandra, the famous brothers, Bharat, Shatrughna, and Lakshman. And then there is Hanuman, the perfect servant, the perfect wife Sita. Then Ram's various friends, the Guha Maharaj, Maharaj Guha, who was even though a tribal person, but Ram had such a wonderful friendship with him. And also Ram had a friendship with Vibhishan. Vibhishan took shelter of Lord Ram, and Ram completely protected him. So even Ram shows how perfectly he protects his devotees. So when we go through the Ramayana, every devotee is absolutely unique. And in fact, throughout the whole creation, every devotee of the Lord is unique. Not a single devotee is a copy of some another devotee. So this is the first lesson we learn from Ramayana, that we don't need to be like some other devotee. We are all unique devotees. Every devotee has a unique relationship, a particular rasa with the lordships. So Lord Ramchandra, when he appears in this world, he has rivers or torrential rains, of these various mellows, from these various devotees. So let's go, in a sequence wise, very briefly. So Lord Ramchandra, he appears as a son of Maharaj Dashrath. So Maharaj Dashrath, he is ruling the kingdom called Ayodhya, which is he is the emperor of the entire planet Earth. So Ayodhya, the word Ayodhya itself is very significant. That Maharaj Dashrath was so powerful that Ayodhya was invincible. Yudhya means fighting. So Ayodhya, no one can defeat Ayodhya, in strength. So Maharaj Dashrath was very powerful. And he had, many wives, but he had three principal wives, queens, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. So one of the duty of a king is to leave a qualified legacy, that after a qualified succession. So Maharaj Dashrath had no sons, so who can give his kingdom to rule over, because this is the one of the duty of a king, that after his reign is over, he should give it to he should give the kingdom to the one person who is qualified. So he had no sons. So Maharaj Dashrath, he performed a very powerful sacrifice, and then he was given a particular payasam, and he was told to give this payasam to his queen, and they will bear the sons. So the payasam was brought, or you can say kheer was brought. It was distributed half and half to Kaushalya and Kaikeyi. And Kaikeyi and Kaushalya made half of their share and gave this 2 share to Sumitra. So Sumitra had 2 shares. So from Mother Kaushalya came Lord Sri Ramchandra, and from Kaikeyi came Sri Bharat Maharaj. And because Sumitra had 2 portions, she had Lakshman and Shatrughna. And it is said, or not said, it is a fact, that all these 4 brothers, Sri Ramchandra, Lakshman, Shatrughna, and Bharat, they are all Vishnu incarnation. They are all Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Ram is the Supreme. He is the eldest brother, and all 3 brothers, they completely, had open reverence and complete surrender to Sri Ramchandra. These brothers were the ideal brother. Lakshman, he could not live a second without serving Lord Ramchandra, and so was Bharat and Shatrughna. So Maharaj Dashrath, he was so much overwhelmed, with joy, that ultimately, finally, the Lord has heard his prayers, and he's been blessed with his wonderful 4 sons. But as the children grew up, when Lord Ramchandra was just a young boy, that time Vishwamitra Muni came to his kingdom, and he asked Sri Ramchandra and Lakshman to come with him and rectify some demoniac influences or some demoniac disturbances happening in the forest. So Dashrath Maharaj, he was so much, attached to Sri Ramachandra, in a spiritual way, that he could not even bear, even a moment's separation from them. So Dashrath Maharaj said, "You can take me. I will come with you. In fact, I'll come with my whole army to kill these demons. Ram is just a small boy. He is no use to you. But I will come with my whole army and rectify the situation." But Vishwamitra said no, because he knew who is Lord Ramchandra. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. He said, "No, I want Sri Ramachandra." So Dashrath Maharaj, to set a wonderful example, to serve the Brahminical culture or to serve the great sages. Even though it was painful for him to send Ram and Lakshman with them, he did send, Ram and Lakshman with them. And Ram and Lakshman, they went with Vishwamitra Muni, and they served Vishwamitra Muni so nicely. And Vishwamitra Muni also, gave so many wonderful teachings to them. So after killing various demons, in the forest, Vishwamitra Muni finally took Sri Ramachandra to Mithila, where the Swayamvar of Mother Sita was happening. So Ram, in that Swayamvar assembly, there was a condition that anybody who can lift a very special bow of Lord Shiva, anybody who can lift it and who can tie the string to that bow, he will be the husband of Mother Sita. But all the princes and all the various kings came from all over the world, even from the other planets. But nobody could even move, not even inch or centimeter, from its place. But when Lord Ramchandra, when he was asked, in fact, when it was Vishwamitra Muni said, "Now please Ram, go and bow this string." So he went there, very humbly, and he was, very effortlessly, he picked up the bow, as if it is just like a small child picks up a mushroom. He picked up the bow, and while he was trying to string the bow, the bow cracked, the bow broke down. And then, the Maharaj Janak was so happy, the father of Mother Sita, that finally I found the suitable husband for my daughter Sita. So then Ramchandra, he was married to Mother Sita. So the news was sent to Dashrath Maharaj, saying that the most qualified, the girl on the earth, Mother Sita, she is none other than Lakshmi Devi, that she's been to marry Lord Ramchandra. And Maharaj Dashrath, he was so happy. They all came to Mithila, in a very wonderful way. The Ramchandra was married to Mother Sita, and also, Maharaj Janak, his brothers had daughters as well. So they were also married to the three brothers of Lord Ramchandra, Shrutakirti, Mandavi, I forgot the other one, Shrutakirti, Mandavi, and Urmila. So they were, married to, the brothers of Sri Ramachandra. So, and then the whole, Mithila and Ayodhya, they just, drowned in the ecstasy of this wonderful, the wedding ceremony. Everyone, especially those who are coming from Indian subcontinent background, we all like to go to wedding. Whenever there is a wedding, the ladies want to dress very nicely, and now they want to sing very nice songs, some nice songs, so if you at all, but nowadays, all these wedding ceremonies has gone little, off track. People are drinking in the wedding, and then some strange ceremonies have come up through, but if you really want to enjoy, take the, the bliss of wedding ceremony, then one should, read the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra marrying to Mother Sita. Then all our desires, to enjoy the wedding ceremony will be all fulfilled, Uh, so in Ramayana, there's a very, detailed description of, how first, Lord Ramchandra met Mother Sita, how she was praying, Mother Sita was praying that, she wants to get married to Lord Ram. And then how Janak Maharaj and Dashrath Maharaj, how they are interacting, how the queens of Dashrath Maharaj interacting with the queens of Mithila. So the whole scenario, the whole ceremony becomes such a wonderful ceremony. So what we learn from this is that what started with a great difficulty for what difficulty for Dashrath Maharaj, because he didn't wanted to send Ram and Lakshmana with Vishwamitra Muni, but because he hold on to this occupational duty of serving the sages and brahmanas, it came out in a very wonderful, victorious way. The obstacle turned into a great, joyous, pompous occasion of that Mother Sita marrying to Lord Ramchandra. So in spiritual life, we are said, there are two things, Shreya and Preya. Preya means something which we like, in the beginning it tastes very good, but at the end it turns very painful or very difficult. But Shreya is something, in the beginning it tastes very bitter or it is very uncomfortable, but the end it gives a wonderful sweet result. So something which started very painfully for Dashrath Maharaj, it turned out to be a wonderful, joyous occasion for the whole of the population. So, so Mother Sita and Lord Ram, they all came back to Ayodhya, and Maharaj Dashrath, he was getting old, and the Maharaj Dashrath was advised by the Kuluguru Vashishta Muni that now is the right time, for Lord Ramchandra to be crowned the king of Ayodhya. And Dashrath Maharaj was just waiting for the suggestion because he was so much, anxious, and so much, anticipating that when can Ram, become the king of Ayodhya, because he knew that Ram he will become a perfect king. And Vashishta Muni said, that the best Muhurat is very much right now, and we should immediately coronate Sri Ramachandra. So at that time, the Bharat Maharaj, the brother of Maharaj Ramchandra Bharat, he was away along with Shatrughna. So when this news broke out to all the citizens of Ayodhya and all the queens, everybody, went into the deepest joy of ocean. He says, now the Ram is going to become their king. They had, after when Ram married Sita, they were so happy, and now their happiness even expounded, multiple times, that Ram is going to be their king. And there's a big festival in Ayodhya, and everybody was so joyous. Yes, Ram is going to be our king. Ram is going to be our king. And everyone in the palace, everyone in the city, they're all making wonderful arrangements for the Ram's Rajyabhishek, or his coronation ceremony. And all the queens, Kaikeyi, Kaushalya, Sumitra, they were all engaged, in making various preparations for this coronation ceremony. So everybody was happy, except was one person, and this person was a lady. She was the maid servant of Queen Kaikeyi. Her name was Manthara. So this Manthara, she went to Kaikeyi and said, Kaikeyi, you're a foolish lady. You don't know what is happening. And Kaikeyi rebuked her. He said, you stupid lady, my Ram is going to become a king. Why are you not happy? So this Manthara said, no, my dear Kaikeyi, you don't know what you are doing. He said, once Ram becomes king, then Kaushalya will become the prominent queen of this kingdom. And you and your son Bharat will just become like a servant in this kingdom. How can you tolerate that? You are a daughter of a great king. And Kaikeyi, she was so angry with this Manthara. Manthara, how can you talk like this? Where is this poisonous came in your head? How can you even think like this? Uh, but then Manthara said, I'm your just a friend. I'm just saying out of my well wishes for you. Because Manthara came as a dowry to Kaikeyi. Because Manthara, she raised the Kaikeyi while she was a very small child. So in my heart, I have only good for you. Kaikeyi was not ready to listen anything to her. But ultimately, Kaikeyi, started hearing, she started agreeing to what Manthara was saying. And finally, Kaikeyi, she was convinced that, if Ram becomes a king, then it will be not good for herself and his son Bharat. So she said, Manthara, it is too late now. I cannot do anything. So Manthara said, no, you can do something. Maharaj Dashrath, he asked you to take two boons which you have not asked for it. Those boons are available with him. So now is the time you can ask these two benedictions from Maharaj Dashrath. So, the Kaikeyi, she went to a place called Kopa Bhavan. It's a place, where if you are angry, you go to that place and become angry. The kingdom was so big, like the dining room and kitchen. There's a place to become angry. She goes to Kopa Bhavan. And, and then Maharaj Dashrath gets the news that Kaikeyi, she is not happy. So he comes there and he says, my dear queen, why are you not happy? Our dear Ram is going to become a king tomorrow. And I saw you were making wonderful arrangements. Why are you suddenly not happy? Then, Kaikeyi said, Maharaj, I want these two benedictions right now. Maharaj said, I am so happy today because my Ram is going to be king tomorrow. Ask anything you want. Kaikeyi said, please promise me that you will follow your promise. So Maharaj said, yes, in my Raghukul, we are famous that prana jai par vachan na jai. We always keep our words. Tell me, what do you want? Today I am so happy. So Kaikeyi said, Maharaj, I want two benediction. First is that Ram will not become king, but instead my son Bharat will become king. And my second boon is that you send Ram for in exile in forest for 14 years. Now, when Maharaj Dashrath heard this, first of all, he couldn't believe his ears. That are these the words coming out of Kaikeyi? Is it really true? Because for Kaikeyi, she loved Ram more than her own son Bharat. She was so much, in affection. Bharat, even though it was her own son, he was her own son, but she loved Ram more than Bharat. So first of all, Maharaj Dashrath couldn't even believe his ears. That is this really happening? And then Kaikeyi said, Maharaj, please tell me, are you going to fulfill your vow or not, your promise or not? He says, Kaikeyi, do you know what you're asking? You're not asking this boon, but you're asking my own life. And not only my own life, when you have this boon, you will bring the misery and suffering for millions and millions of people for many, many years. But Kaikeyi, she was poisoned by these words of Manthara. She could not understand any of the logic which was given by Maharaj Dashrath. Maharaj Dashrath pleaded to her, begged her, please don't do this, please don't do this. But she was adamant, Maharaj, I want these two benedictions. And finally, Ramchandra, he comes to this that that his father is completely devastated because Mother Kaikeyi wants these two benedictions. So he comes to Maharaj Dashrath. He said, my dear father, why didn't you even hesitate? I'm more than happy to go to the forest, and happy to give the kingdom to Bharat. There is not a single hesitation, in my heart. In fact, tomorrow only, I'll go to the forest. In fact, Kaikeyi said, no, Ram has to go immediately. He says, I'm ready to go to the forest. Uh, so here at this stage, let's take a pause and see what exactly is happening. Is that this material world, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. This world is full of misery and temporary. The whole situation in Ayodhya turned upside down in a matter of minutes. That the whole occasion of everybody becoming so joyfully happy to know that that Ramchandra is going to be the king, it turned out to be a very sad occasion. That now Ram, he'll be going to the forest. So, my dear friends, if these things can happen while the Ram is present, that misery can come even though Ram is present. And it can happen, the joyful occasion can turn into a very sad occasion in minutes. And what is our situation in Kali Yuga? Kali Yuga is full of misery. Kali Yuga is age of color and hypocrisy. So Prabhupada, he in the purport that we just read from Bhagavatam, he said, yes, this age of Kali is very horrible. But if we can take the shelter of Ram in his holy name, chanting Hare Krishna, then we can have that Rama Rajya. But one thing that we have to be sure, that this world is not fit for a gentleman to live. So that's why devotees, they have no hope or they have no attachment to this world. They are here, they serve, to their beloved Lord in devotion, and whenever it is Lord's desire, they come back to Godhead. But none of the devotee has no inclination or no desire to stay in this world a second more than what is required. So this is the first lesson we learn. This world is full of misery and it is temporary. Don't keep a faith, don't keep too much hope in this world. It can turn upside down at any moment. A year back, who knew that in this whole world will be locked because of this pandemic called coronavirus? Everybody had their own plans, holiday going, house building, making some money, going here and there. And then the virus comes, then everybody is locked down. All the plans goes upside down. So this is just one pandemic, but there are, wars, and then there are the political upheavals, and then there are financial crises, the social crises, the family problems, mental problems. So many problems are there in this world. So anything can go upside down at any moment. We should not have too much faith in this world. This is the first lesson we learn. And second lesson we learn is what can a bad association can do in a person's life. The whole of Ayodhya, they are all, most of them are pure devotees of the Lord. Everybody, everybody wanted to see Lord Ram as their king. So everybody are the devotees of the Lord Ram, including Kaikeyi. But this one person, Manthara, she gives this bad advice to Kaikeyi. And Keikeyi, though she has, the power and capacity to differentiate what is right and what is wrong, if you give ear or if you even consider the bad association even for a few minutes, it has got the potential to completely devastate not your own life, but the life of so many people around you. Huh? So Prabhupada says, like a milk touched by the lip of a serpent, it becomes poisonous. So a bad association, it may be around you. You might be, we might be rejecting it all the time. But if we give a bad association even for a minute to pollute our consciousness, even for a minute or even for a second, it can devastate your life. So Mother Keikeyi, initially she did not, listen to anything of the mantra. But says, maybe there is some truth. Let me explore. So this is how the bad association starts. The bad association does not come up saying that, I am your enemy. The bad association comes saying, I am your well-wisher. I am your friend. In my heart, I have is all good for you. Please listen to what I am saying. So for example, when somebody starts drinking alcohol, somebody says, oh, alcohol is very bad. I should never drink it. But he goes to a friend circle, his friends, and somebody is drinking alcohol. He says, my friend, just alcohol. He says, no, I don't want it. Take one little drop, it will not contaminate anything of you. I say, no, I don't want. He says, I'm your friend. I'm telling you, it is good for you. And person takes, one drop of alcohol. Then one little more and little more. And he starts with that bad association. You slowly get into the grip of this bad association. And it will completely devastate your life. And it has got a potential. You can become an alcoholic. You can lose your job. You can lose your family. We don't need to go in details, in my own personal, family. I've seen the results of this, this bad thing called alcohol. Similarly, there are all these, contaminations in this world. There are 4, big sinful things in this world. And what are these? Meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. These are the 4 pillars of sinful life, which any saint devotee, not even a devotee, somebody who even considers himself a civilized person, he refrains from doing all these 4 things. And many person, very pious person, they are very resolute in their determination. But sometimes when they give in to the advice of their friends or relatives, somebody is very, pure vegetarian, goes to a wedding, and there are all non-vegetarian things are served, and friend comes, today is my wedding, take this chicken. I don't know what is now. My wedding, it won't harm me anything, please take, it is for my benefit, my joy. You take this one, and your life is destroyed. So all these bad association, bad habits, starts from this one small little attention to it. If you give it attention to it, it will capture you. It will capture you and it will destroy you. So Keikeyi, she just heard mantra. She just considered her request even just for a minute, and everything was destroyed. And on the other side, let's take the example of Vibhishan. Now Vibhishan, it is completely opposite case of what is Keikeyi. Now we all know Vibhishan. Those who don't know, Vibhishan is a brother of Ravan, a demon king, and he was living in a place called Lanka. And in the Lanka, there was not a single person who was a devotee or devotee of Lord Ram in Lanka except for Vibhishan. So he had all the bad association around him, but he never ever engaged or never ever gave in to that bad association. He was so steadfast, in his vows of devotion. So he was always protected. huh? But Manthara, in the case of Kaikei in Manthara, Kaikei just gave into just 1 minute of association, and everything was completely destroyed. So, my dear friends, we have to be very careful, especially in this age of Kali Yuga. What kind of association we are into. huh? It all our spiritual success, our spiritual journey, our experience will depend what kind of association we are into. If you're association of a devotee, then our life will be full of joy and devotion, full of joy. Uh, if we are like, I want to have some association of a devotee, but maybe I have to have some association of my, so-called well-wishers, then they will drag you down, sooner or later. So we have to be very careful what association we should keep in our life. Anyway, let's move on. So, Mother Kaikei, she was, because of her benediction or her bad association, now Ram is ready to go to forest. And when Lakshman hears this, so he says, Ram, if you are going to the forest, I am coming with you. So I won't stop you, but I'll come with you. And Sita, she said, no, my dear Lord Ram, I am just like your shadow. Wherever you go, I will go. And Ram, in so many ways, he tried to persuade both Sita and Lakshman that no, it is for me alone to go to the forest. You cannot come. But then Sita, she gave, so many wonderful logics that, what is the duty of a, chaste wife. So Ram then finally agreed to the request of Sita and Lakshman. And then, the next day, both Lakshman and Ram, in a dress of a mendicant, they left the Ayodhya. And in the morning, when Ayodhya Vasi came to know that Ram is not going to be the king, but in fact is going in exile for 14 years to stay in forest, the whole city, went into a deep, dark depression. Said, how can this be true? This cannot be true. And when they saw in their own eyes, Ram leaving Ayodhya, all the Ayodhya Vasis says, Ram, wherever you are, there is our Ayodhya. Our Ayodhya means, Ram, you are there, we are here because you are here. You are our Ayodhya. So wherever you go, we'll follow you. And Ram, he tried to convince in so many ways that please, you stay in the city. And when Bharat comes, please help him in the running the kingdom. But he said, no, Ram, we are coming with you. So, Ram is being driven by, in the royal chariot by Sumanta. And then Ram comes to, the outside Ayodhya. And Ram realizes that, these citizens of Ayodhya, they will not go back, however much he tries to. So in the night time, when they're taking rest, in the middle of a night, Ram, he goes, without telling anybody, he asks Sumantra to now take the chariot, and leave them. And Ram very tactfully says, go to a place where there is a shallow water is there. So while they will not see where the tracks of the chariot is gone. And Ram tells the Sumantra to go in a zigzag way. So they will not know, even they find out some tracks, they will not know which way they have gone. And in the morning, when all the Ayodhya Vasis, they saw that beloved Ram is nowhere to be found. They all, they practically, they just wanted to give up their life. But they, with this one hope that, after 14 years, Ram will be back. So with that hope, they went back to Ayodhya. But for next 14 years, it is said, in Ayodhya, not a single festival was celebrated. The whole Ayodhya was like a dreary void place. It was a very sad place. Um, so they didn't even celebrated any weddings or any birthdays or they just waiting for Ram to come. That's it. 14 years will finish, and Lord Ram come, and then they'll get their life back. So while Ram was going, so they crossed the river and they came to a place. It was the small tribal kingdom. It is called Nishad. Nishad community was there, and they called and the king was Guha, Maharaj Guha. This Maharaj Guha was a very dear friend of Lord Ramchandra. It is said that this Nishad Raj Guha, he used to come to Ayodhya to pay his tax to Maharaj Dashrath, and that time he would see Lord Ram, and they had a very intimate friendship. And when he saw Lord Ram, into this not so princely cloth, and he asked Ram what happened. So Lakshman told all the story. So Nishadraj said, my dear Ram, you don't need to go anywhere. This kingdom is yours. I am yours. My whole family will be your servant. All my kingdom is your property. You just stay here all the 14 years. When the 14 years is over, you can go back to Ayodhya. But Ram said, no, I have to fulfill the words that I gave it to my father. Even though Maharaj Guha, he tried to convince Ram in so many ways, Ram finally departed from the kingdom. And then Ram, he finally went to a place called Prayag. Now it's called Prayagraj, where the confluence of Ganga, Jamuna, and Saraswati happens, and where he met Bharadwaj Muni. And in Bharadwaj Muni, when he came to know the story behind Lord Ram's exile, so Bharadwaj Muni said, he said, you can just stay with us here in the ashram. There are many great sages are there, saints are there. We can just associate with them. And all 14 years, you can just stay here. But Lord Ram said, see how Ram is so sensitive. He said, if I stay here, this Prayagraj is a very famous place. And if everybody will come to know that I am staying here, all the citizens of Ayodhya and people from all over the world, they'll come here and they will disturb your sadhana, they'll disturb your daily activities. I rather not stay here. So he asked, in fact, Bharadwaj Muni that, my dear saint, please tell me, suggest me a place where I can stay, but I do not disturb, the local sages and saints around here. And also, it is very not what kind of place. It is a very place where you can live very peacefully. So Bharadwaj Muni suggested, I know exactly the place we are looking for. It is called Chitrakut. There's a mountain, very near to Prayag. He said it's a Chitrakut, and you can stay there. Then Ram, he went there, and Lakshman made a nice 2-room hut, and then Ram and Lakshman, they started staying there very nicely. Mother Sita, she would make a nice flower garland, pick up the flowers, and Ram, then Sita and Lakshman, they'll associate all these saintly people around them, and they'll have nice satsang, and life was wonderful. Ram, Sita, and Lakshman, they were also very nicely spending their days. So in fact, Ram, he said, that I'm very happy here. I'm more happy than Ayodhya. So Acharyas, they compare Sitaram's stay in Chitrakut with the Ras Leela in Vrindavan. That in Vrindavan, Krishna gave so much pleasure to his devotees. For Rama Bhakta, Chitrakut is as good as the Vrindavan of Krishna Bhakta. There is no difference. So, about a month passed. When meantime, when Bharat, when he came back, in fact, he started receiving so many bad omens while he was away. So immediately came to Ayodhya, and he came to know from the Kaikai that he is now the, the candidate for the king. He is to be coronated as the king. And then he also came to know that his father, meantime, Maharaj Dashrath, when Ramchandra left the Ayodhya, Dashrath Maharaj could not bear the separation of Ram, and he left his body. When Maharaj Bharat came, in the Ayodhya, he went into so deep depression. He rejected his mother. He said, Kaikai, what have you done to us? And he rejected her, saying, you brought all the bad name to our whole dynasty. You ruined my own life. Kaikai said, I did it for you, my son. He said, no, you ruined my whole life. How can how can I be the king and Ram go to the exile? And then Bharat, he was so angry with Kaikai. And Shatrughna, when he came to know and he realized that it is the mantra, she was the culprit behind all this thing. Then Shatrughna wanted to kill Mantra, but then Bharat stopped him. He said, Bharat, our Ram would not like it, if you kill Mantra. So you don't do this. And then Bharat, goes to Kaushalya. And then, Kaushalya also, she thought, Bharat, she was that, she said some words that Bharat said, my dear mother, I got nothing to do with this. I'm completely innocent. In fact, I take a vow that I'll go to the forest now. I'll bring the Ram back to Ayodhya. I'll coronate him as the king, and I'll go and live in exile in place of Ramchandra. So, meantime, Bharat, did the last rites of Maharaj Dashrath, and then Bharat, he prepared the whole, because he knew that how Ram, he'll be, because Ram would like to keep the word of his own father, because they are from the same dynasty, Raghu dynasty. They'll always keep their words. Says Ram will be very difficult for for him to convince to bring Ram back to Ayodhya. So he makes all the arrangement. He brings the whole army of Ayodhya to convince Ram that Ram, he should come back. He took on the guru, Vasishtha Muni. He brought all the mothers, along with him. And he made all the arrangements, so that Ram could not say no, to come back to Ayodhya. So then, then he made a, it says for a month, he made a big road to go to Chitrakoot, because he wanted the whole Ayodhya to come to Ram, to convince Ram to come back to Ayodhya. So they built a big road, and then Bharat and all the armies of Ayodhya, they started walking towards the Chitrakoot. While they were coming, suddenly one day, Lord Ram, he was sitting there in Lakshman, and he heard this big rattling of, some big army moving in. So Lakshman, he went to a tree and, he saw that there is the flag of Ayodhya, is there in the army. So, Lakshman comes down very angrily from the tree. He said, Ram, Bharat is coming, and he is coming with a big army. Why need army? Because I'm sure he wants to come here and kill you so that he can enjoy the kingdom without any disturbance. But Bharat does not know that Lakshman is here. Today, I will not only kill Bharat, but I will destroy the entire army of Ayodhya. So here it is explained that Lakshman was so angry that just by the wrath of his eyes, he could have killed the whole army of Bharat without shooting any arrows. He was that angry. But then Ram, he chastised Lakshman. He said, Lakshman, how can you even think like that? Bharat is a Mahatma. Anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, lust, these things does not reside in the heart of Bharat. Bharat loves me as much as you love me. So don't you even think like that. I know what Bharat is coming for here. So he said, Bharat, I'm sure he is coming here to convince me to come back to Ayodhya. Hmm. So in the meantime, Bharat, while the army is taking his time, Bharat could not leave, wait longer. So he and some of his associates and Guru, and they started running towards Ram's ashram. Uh, so then Bharat comes and immediately falls down at the feet of Lord Ram. And when Lord Ram, he looks at Bharat. Ram knew that Bharat is a Mahatma and how much he loves him. So without saying any words, they are not even saying any words to each other. Ram embraces Bharat and Bharat embraces Ram so tightly, and they are just crying and crying and crying. And it is said, while they are embracing each other, and their intensity is so high that the rock underneath their feet starts melting, and that rock has the footprint of Ram and a Bharat. So I haven't been there, but it is my very great desire that someday, says it is in Chitrakoot, you can still go there. You can see the feet of Lord Ram and Bharat. They're embracing each other. So Bharat, is crying and crying and crying, and Ram is so happy to see Bharat. And then Ram, he asks finally that, where is our father? I can see his elephant here, but where is our father? So Bharat says, my dear Ram, Lord, our father could not bear your separation. So remembering your wonderful form and chanting your name, he left this world. And that was such a, deep, like a thunderbolt to Ram. He could not, bear this news. But then, finally Ram, balances himself, and then, he does the last rites of his father, nearby river called Mandakini Ganga. And then all the mothers are there, the army is there, the Kulaguru Vasishta Muni is there. And then Bharat comes and he falls at the feet of Ram. He said, my dear Ram, please come back to Ayodhya. And Ram, he says, Bharat, how can I come back? Don't you want our father's fame to be intact? We are known for our word. I have given my word to our father, and if I don't follow this word, this promise, then it will bring disfamy to our dynasty. So Bharat, he said, you have given your words to the father, and I am the king now. So it is my kingdom. Now it is my right to give this kingdom to you. No one can stop me, give my kingdom to you. Who can stop me? So I'm giving it to you. So this way, Bharat is so many ways he's trying to convince Ram. Ram, please come back to Ayodhya. Ram, please come back to Ayodhya. And Ram, now my dear friend, understand this one thing. Ram is a supreme personality of Godhead. No one can defeat him. But there is one thing which can defeat the Lord. And what is that thing? Probably we all know. That thing is our love for God or love for Ram. You can conquer the God with your love. And Bharat is an ocean of love of God. And with his love, he is trying to convince Ram to come back to Ayodhya. It is so difficult for Ram to resist the love of Bharat. Ram is trying to hold on to the principles of religion. And Bharat, with his love, intense love, is trying to convince Ram, please come to Ayodhya. And there is a, transcendental, So Ramayana is all about giving pleasure to your beloved. Uh, so they're trying to convince each other, and they're going nowhere. Bharat is shedding tears and tears. And Ram, please come, please come. He gives so many logic. But Ram, he's so adamant on his word. Said, Bharat, I understand your love, but please don't make me do this. Uh, and then, Guru Vasishta, Bharat goes to Vasishta, says, please, you tell Ram, you are our Guru, he cannot deny, he cannot, reject your request. So then, Vasishta says, Ram, it is Bharat's love, please, do this something. So Ram said, my dear Guru, my father, my mother, they raised me, with their so much care and love. I have got so much debt upon my head. And if I don't keep the words of my father, I will be disrespecting my father. Please don't make me do this. Then Vasishta Muni said, okay, Ram, no more logic from me. I was just testing you. So then, they were not going anywhere. And meantime, all the demigods, they were all gathered in the sky, seeing, the discussion between Ram and Bharat. Now the demigods, they wanted Ram to win. Do you know why? Because it's on demigod's request, Ram appeared in this world to kill Ravan. So they were fearing that because Bharat was really strong, he said if Ram gives up to the Bharat's request, then Ram will go back to Ayodhya and who will kill Ravan? These are all universal administrators of the universe. He says, our job will be difficult. So they really wanted Ram to win, said don't go to Ayodhya. So then, Bharat was, pleading and begging to Ram, and Ram was, trying difficulty, that, Bharat, please don't make me do this. Then finally, the Bharat, he realized that the object of my love, the purpose of my love or purpose of my life is to give pleasure to Ram. If Ram coming to Ayodhya will not give pleasure to my Ram, then I should not make me do this. But at the same time, Bharat could not tolerate that Ram be not the king of Ayodhya and he's staying in the forest. So finally, he relented. He said, Ram, he made him agree, Bharat made Ram agree that, you be the king, but I will be your servant. I'll be your representative. So Bharat, he said, my dear Ram, I brought these 2 shoes for you, your paduka, your sandals, as a part of coronation. So you please wear these shoes. So that these shoes will represent your authority. And I will go back to Ayodhya and I will coronate, these shoes on the throne of Ayodhya. And then I will be just your servant. You will be the king, but I'll be just your representative. And Ram agreed to this request of Ayodhya, of Bharat. And Bharat, those shoes, he put it on his head, with the rivers of tears flowing in his eyes, with a very heavy heart. He starts walking towards Ayodhya. And when he reaches Ayodhya, he coronates the sandals of Ram on the throne. But he could not tolerate the thought that my dear Ram, he is having a matted hair and he is wearing a tree bark. He said, I am a servant of Ram. How can I wear better clothes than Ram? So he said, I should live as same as my Lord Ram. So he also had a matted hair and he started wearing tree bark. He said, my Lord Ram is living in a forest. So I should not live in the city. So he made a small arrangement outside Ayodhya, the place called Nandigram. So there he started living. He said, my dear Lord Ram, he sleeps on the floor. So he started also living in the floor. So my dear friend, there are so many lessons we can learn from Bharat. But one thing for today's our discussion we can learn from him is that Bharat, he is not interested in any of the facilities of being a king or any of the prestige of being a king or any of the perks, or the facilities which come as being king of a kingdom. That is all for Ram. But being the servant of Ram, he's still not compromising his responsibility of being a king of Ayodhya. So Bharat, he is completely, surrendered to the Ram without any expectation of any recognition, facilities, position, or powers. Everything for the pleasure of Ram. It is half eight now, and we have to stop very soon. So there are many lessons we can learn from Bharat. Okay, where was he? Many lessons we have to learn from Bharat. Bharat was never attached to the facilities of being a king, or the prestige that comes with being a king. He was completely detached to all the kingly facilities. And lastly, I will just mention a few words about Shatrughna. We know Lakshman, he is serving Ram so nicely. Bharat, he gave up everything, for the service of Krishna, service of Ram. Now Shatrughna, see Lakshman, in Ramayana, everybody wants to sacrifice for Lord Ram. Everybody, Dashrath, Kaikeyi, everybody, Sita, Lakshman, everybody wants to sacrifice for Lord Ram. But Shatrughna, he also wants to sacrifice for Ram. How can I give pleasure to Ram? Bharat also managed to give his sacrifice. Now Shatrughna said, I also want to sacrifice for Lord Ram, but he is being told by Ram that he should serve Bharat in the kingdom, the management of the kingly duties. So here Shatrughna is not allowed to do his sacrifice. Can you understand? That Shatrughna also wanted to live like a Lakshman or Bharat or Ram, but he is now asked, because the mothers are alone in the palace, and there are so many duties to do in the administration of a kingdom. So Bharat, he has to live, normal life, but he doesn't want to live that life. He also wants to, sacrifice his life in the service of Ram. But here, Shatrughna, we learn lesson from him that sometimes our service means we do what is required, even something which is not palatable to us, still we do it. Shatrughna doesn't want to live like a prince in the Ayodhya, but still, it is required to serve Bharat, so he does that. So my dear friends, it's 8:30 now. I thank you all very much for coming today and participating in the online Ram Lila or Ram Katha today for Ram Navami. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Ramchandra, Sita Ram Lakshmana Bhagwan ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Radhamohan Prabhu, for taking us to Ayodhya, nicely summarizing Ramayana, and wonderful lessons from Kaikeyi Manthara, and as well as Bharat's sacrifice. Beautiful lessons. Ramayana is a book of values. Everybody in this day and age wants some valuables, but it gives the values. So thank you so much for that, Radhamohan Prabhu. Wonderful. I've got a couple of very exciting announcements for you all. So this Friday as well as Sunday, we're going to continue Ram Katha. We'll be taking some more pastimes, some more life lessons, collecting some more jewels from Ramayana. this Friday as well as Sunday. Friday between 7:30 till 8:30, and Sunday class between 1 and 2. So please make a note of that, and please come and take part in this series. And also, the more exciting news is that we have a wonderful speaker kindly agreed to do Ram Katha, Ramayan series in 2 parts. You might have heard his name is Grace Shubhavilas Prabhu. Is an amazing speaker. Is one of the greatest authority on Ramayan in ISKCON. He had written a series of books on Ramayan. And is an author as well as a great speaker. Shubhavilas, you can Google and see. He had kindly agreed to do 2 sessions for ISKCON Manchester. Unfortunately, his schedule was so busy, we could not get him before Ram Navami or on the day of Ram Navami, unfortunately. But never mind, he had agreed. And the dates are May 8th. It's a Saturday, May 8th, and Sunday, 16th May. Saturday, 8th May, Sunday, 16th May. The timings will be broadcasted to you on WhatsApp, but please do make a note that Shubhavilas Prabhu will be doing a 2-part seminar to ISKCON Manchester, Saturday 8th May, as well as Sunday 16th May. So we all will be eagerly looking forward to that session. And also I would like to thank everyone for taking part in this beautiful virtual Ram Navami celebration. I really appreciate, and we would also like to thank our Bhuneshwari Radha Mataji's family for a wonderful darshan. You feel like you are in an altar, isn't it? Just looking at these beautiful deities, how nicely they were decorated. So beautiful. So thank you so much for that, Bhuneshwar Radha Mataji and Praneshwar Prabhu for that. And now I will hand over to His Grace Madhav Kumar Prabhu for our final kirtan. Please do stay with us. It is very important that we together do kirtan. This is the essence of Kali Yuga. The essence, the main practice is actually doing Sankirtan together, chanting the holy names of the Lord in the association of devotees. So please do not leave. Please stay with us. We will, unmute and sing. Yeah. Okay, Madhav Kumar Prabhu, over to you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Hare Krishna to all the devotees of ISKCON Manchester congregation. Thank you for being with us tonight. Adhaman Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful session and highlighting messages from the Bhagavad Puran. Indeed, if we continue to chant the names of Rama and Krishna, we can feel the presence of Lord Ram even to this date. And wherever the glories of the Lord are being sung, the pastimes of the Lord are continuing to happen, not just in Satya Yuga or Dwapara Yuga, even in Kali Yuga, we can feel the presence of the Lord if we chant his holy name in the association of devotees. Gauranatraj Prabhu mentioned about Shubhavilas Prabhu agreeing to conduct a few sessions for us. We are very fortunate that just today, this afternoon, about 16 of his titles have arrived in Manchester. Over 100 kilos worth of books have arrived in Manchester. And I'm very pleased to share this edition, which is specially written for the children, illustrated for children, the entire Ramayana. The entire story is being told in a form of illustrations very nicely, so that the kids can take some beautiful messages.
Looks very beautiful indeed.
Yeah, it's a big book, quite heavy as well, very nicely illustrated. So there are 16 books altogether. It just arrived, the whole set just arrived. This is Panchatattva, ancient stories from India. And likewise, there are other 14 books. We're still trying to open the boxes and and add the prices and everything together, but it'll soon be available for everybody. Please look out for messages. Also, apart from Shubha Vilas Prabhu, another celebrated author is Krishna Dharma Prabhu. He ran the Manchester temple for a number of years earlier on. So we are thankful for him to have set up Manchester for what we have now. He's also very famously put together the Ramayana and the Mahabharata series. So these are available as well. These are small books, probably a week's worth of reading for you. So if you're interested, please reach out, and we're happy to support you having copies for these wonderful books. More so now than ever before, we need the medium of these books to remind us of the wonderful, beautiful messages that the Shastras, the scriptures are telling us on how to live our lives peacefully in the age of Kali Yuga. How to make a good deal of a bad bargain, that's the saying, through the medium of these books. So please reach out and look out for messages regarding these books that have just arrived. So we'll just do a quick 10-15 minutes to close the session. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
No, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Baladev,
Jaya Jaya
Jaya Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman,
Jaya
Jaya
Sitaram, Lakshman
Hanuman,
Jaya
Jaya
Sitaram,
Sitaram,
Lakshman
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram,
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya
Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram.
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram.
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Ram
Hare.
Sankirtan Yaga ki Jai. And now, just to close, for protection and well-being of all the devotees, we will just sing Lord Nrsimha prayers. So if you know them, then please join us from wherever you are, or else just stay with us while we're reciting Lord Nrsimha prayers.
Namaste Narasingaya.
Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Prahlad Ladadai Anya Kashi Purusha Vilasanka Nakala Shingo Parato Nashingo Yato Yato Yamitato Nashingo Nashingo Hridaye Nashingo Narashinga Madhim Saranam Prabhaya Prahlad Maharaj Jai Prahlad Maharaj Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol
Bhagwan ki
Jai.
Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Thakur Premanande
Hari
Hari Hari Bol. Bolo Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone. for your kind words. Hare Krishna. See you all on Friday. Hari Bol. We are missing prasadam. We got everything else. We're missing prasadam, and the special panakam, special drink is made, especially in South India. So on this particular day. So that is also being missed. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.